Hello, and welcome to Unity of Fredericksburg. My name is Linda, and I'm pleased to welcome all of you to the Unity of Fredericksburg weekly online gathering. At Unity of Fredericksburg, we are advancing the movement of spiritual awakening and transformation through unity, a positive path for spiritual living. We thank those of you watching on YouTube live or later and invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're able to attend live, we encourage you to join us in the Zoom community room for the full Sunday morning experience, including music, prayer, and connection. Our weekly newsletter includes the Sunday service link, and you can subscribe to receive that on our website at uofva.org. For everyone local to Central Virginia, Unity of Fredericksburg offers a variety of fun and enriching in-person gatherings every month. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter at uofva.org for all the details. Our message and meditation today comes from Reverend Lily Boyles, who grew up in Unity, believing wholeheartedly in humanity's sacred worth and our messiness. The dichotomy of each of us being fully human and fully divine inspired her to pursue a BA in Religious Studies and Sociology from the University of New Mexico. Ordained from Unity Worldwide Spiritual Institute in 2022, she continues to pursue ministry focused on deep care of individuals, family systems, and communities, knowing that spirit moves inside and outside the walls of her traditional church building. This led her to pursuing clinical pastoral education at the University of Kansas Health System in Kansas City, where she continues to live into her call as a board certified chaplain. Being a chaplain means holding space for the hard and the holy to be seen, heard, and honored. And now here's Reverend Lily Boyles.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning or good day, wherever you are tuning in from, now or later. That is the gift of church online, of ministry online, of connection, wherever you are. So I appreciate being part of it this morning. This morning, I was asked to continue a focus on the 12 powers of unity, which is one of my favorite topics. And so we're going to dive into the power of imagination this morning. In growing up in Unity, there was a almost competitiveness in me in learning the 12 powers. I remember having a youth and family minister growing up that the first Sunday of each month, it was almost like a pop quiz. What's the 12 power of the month? Where is it found in the body? What is the color associated? What is the affirmation? And so I would almost be studying, cramming to understand my 12 powers as a child. And imagination was one of those that I always just remembered. It was for July. My sister's birthday's in July. She's an incredibly imaginative and creative person. So that always just felt like an easy one. That felt like a give me. And one of the things that looking back at this, not only did that create some of my study habits that I think contributed to my academic career of sometimes last minute cramming of information, but also that I would remember it and bring it into association. That tends to be how our mind works, is that something that is familiar, something that we can anchor in new information to into the familiar has it stick better. And so in thinking about imagination, it might be something that you're familiar with based on what it has been for you. For me, imagination is oftentimes coupled with creativity. And that always felt like, I don't know if I have so much imagination because I never saw myself as creative growing up. That was my sister's thing. She was the artist, she was creative. And so for me, it was like, well, I know these 12 powers, all of them, all 12 are within me, in my body, active at any time and can be pulled upon to take the lead or to be utilized at any point. But I don't know how much I actively called on imagination growing up when I only had coupled it with creativity and my belief that I wasn't creative. It really shifted for me when I started really looking at what did Charles Fillmore mean when he talked about imagination. In the creative process that happens in the work of creativity, there's a lot that goes in before something is made. In the definition of imagination that I like to call upon, there are pieces that go way before something as an output. Those are conception, vision, and embodiment. And one of the books that I'm going to be pulling from today is Divine Audacity by Linda Martella Whitsett. And so she breaks down in looking at imagination through those lenses of conception, vision, and embodiment. And in the way of me feeling like I was not totally attached to imagination, I don't know how much I utilized it when I was growing up because I wasn't looking at it through a different frame. I wasn't looking at it through new eyes. And new eyes is all about what imagination brings to us. This morning, I titled my talk, Imagination as Resistance and Rebellion. And that stems from a quote that is from Indian philosopher Rajneesh that said, creativity in its greatest experience is rebellion. And so, in the way of imagination being rebellion, it asks us to say what has been and what could be. Imagination is living in the what if. What if it all went right? What if my body was healed? What if the world was at peace? And so, some of that is suspending the judgment of what is in front of us to sink into the what if, the what could be. And that is a deeply hope-filled and faith-filled act. I want to offer you some words from Linda Martella Whitsett that I feel like really encapsulate this. If you are seasoned in your Unity career or new to your Unity career, this is a book I will always recommend. It is a highlighting of the 12 powers. And I just appreciate the work and the wisdom of Linda Martella Whitsett. So she offers us these words. The visioning power of imagination is our capacity to dream of what has not yet been manifested, to flesh out an idea and to feel the benefit of it in advance of its fulfillment. To envision is to create in the mind, the first and most necessary phase of creation. Studies have proven that our brains are preset to see what we are looking for, which means we are continuously creating more of what is familiar. However, our prefrontal cortex, a recent evolutionary development, gives us the capacity to envision possibilities beyond our present knowledge. By this power, the power of imagination, we can leap from what is to what can be. I don't know about you, but getting stuck in the what has been feels incredibly limiting for me. Nothing will make me dig my heels in more than hearing, well, that's how we've always done it. Because my response is, why? Why have we always done it this way? Is that really working for everyone? Are we able to say, maybe I could be less attached to what has been and be in the act of possibility to what can be? Some of that, I think, is that inner rebel in me wanting to understand the why and wanting to question. Unity has always given me a space to question. That is part of how I understand my ability to utilize imagination, because that is conception, that is looking at a reality and seeing it as the potential of something more, of something greater, of something that might work for more of us. The affirmation and unity of a world that works for all has to have imagination at the center. Because for me, in my judgment of where the world is right now, it does not work for all. It works for some, and some work really, really hard to have it work for them. And in my belief of we don't get through this life and through this world independently of each other, we are all connected in this affirmation, intention of a world that works for all, that has to be deeply rooted in what imagination is and what the world can be through our power of imagination. It is possible within the power of imagination to take what is physically seen in front of us and make it the best or the worst. In our brains that are looking to make sense of the world in order to create good and bad, we like to stick in dichotomies of if it is not this, then it is this. That's how our brains are set up to make sense of the world in organizing the world. Imagination sometimes blows that up. And so it feels unnerving and unfamiliar if we're not used to saying, what might this be? If we're used to saying, well, it's always has been. The power of imagination, though, just like anything, is a neutral force that we put our intention onto. So if I see something in front of me, say, for example, the rain this morning in Kansas City. I woke up this morning and I love the rain. I come from the desert growing up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And so anytime that there is rain, I love it. Instead of going into my pattern of loving the rain, I went into my humanity and stress of a speaker to say, well, that's going to throw off my lighting. And what is that going to mean for my internet connection living in an old house? And so I took this outside of my pattern of loving the rain and slipped into my pattern of worrying and wanting to control. Both are patterns, both are within me. You know what the spark of creativity was? My husband, who said, why don't you just get another lamp in the room? Oh, how easy that was. How easy it was to slip into my patterns, and how easy it was to have someone else see an opportunity for imagination. How easy it is to literally turn on the light, to literally turn on another light bulb in the way of thinking about imagination linked to ideas, divine ideas, brilliant ideas. It's one of those things for us in being able to understand that our power of imagination is whatever our intention is linked to with it. And so that can be making the best of an opportunity of possibility, or it can be taking it into a space of lack, a space of panic, a space of stress. When patterns are the things that we are operating from in our humanity, we aren't moving forward in any way that is new to us. Patterns provide comfort. They are there psychologically and sociologically to have us continue to survive individually and collectively. But we can practice the act of imagination. We can actively engage in what the world could be. Just like anything, we can get better at utilizing our imagination. From the words of Linda Martello Whitsett, she says, it is helpful to know that we are equally capable of imagining the best or the worst. In fact, imagining the best is the innate evolutionary drive that becomes easier with practice. We can practice conceiving harmony when undergoing challenges in our relationships. We can conceive of our loved one's wholeness of being during their illness. We can redirect an obsessive image of an airplane crash by conceiving of the plane safely landing. It's all about training our brain and being willing to practice. And so in the way of newness that is part of, I think, imagination, I also want to acknowledge the human impulse of it feeling uncomfortable. One of the phrases that I have tried to eradicate from my language is I'm bad at that, or I'm not good at something. I think I said that a lot growing up. Oh, I'm just bad at it. The phrase I'd like to substitute is I'm just getting good at this. And so in the way of practice of imagination, when I slip into patterns, oh, I'm just getting good at this. I'm just getting good seeing the possibility that might be in front of me instead of going into the sense reality of what I see in front of me. That feels more capable for me. That feels more possible for me. Not that it's easy, not that it's natural, but it's possible. And that's all of what imagination is and can be, is possible. One of the gifts that imagining a life in the what if brings to me is a sense of feeling like I can do something in this world. There are many spaces in which I interact with and experience the sense of feeling helpless or powerless. Being a hospital chaplain, I see people sometimes on their worst and most grief-filled days. When there's a new diagnosis, that means that their life is not going to go back to what it was. Or having to understand that even though a team tried to save a life, that life didn't continue and someone died. That is at times an incredibly powerless space to say, everything I tried hasn't worked. I tried my best to save that life. I tried my best to stay healthy and not have the cancer come back. I tried my best to remind my mom to take her meds. These are all things I've heard in my hospital rooms this week. The hope for me with imagination is acknowledging that we have tried our best and to not judge anything that we have done up until this point, but to say, today and now, what can we do? Where can we go? Who can we continue to bring into this life experience with us? That feels very hope-filled, underpin an imagination of saying, well, what if? One of the phrases that I love utilizing in some of my communication with patients, loved ones, and their families, as well as my medical team in the hospital, is I wish, I wonder, I want. And all of this feels very in imagination for me. So when someone says, well, I'm not sure what the best choice for me is in terms of should I pursue treatment or should I pursue comfort? I wish I had an answer for you. I wonder what life would look like if you knew that answer. I want to support you in finding that answer. That's me as someone who is caring for another, offering the possibility and the humanity of where we are and what can be, which is that fine line of imagination. Because if I jump right to the what can be, we don't honor the what is. And in the way of being fully human and fully divine, which is part of the unity process, I want to hold space for both. So my question for you, in the possibility of imagination, in the living life, in the what if, in being part of the hope-filled and faith-filled process of imagination, what are you imagining? What would your life look like if all of the best things that are for you were known by you now? How would that shift for who you are? I want to go back to the words of Linda Martella Whitsett, who offers to us, imagination is perhaps the greatest tool for us to assume and claim our divine identity. The future we have been envisioning demands one thing of us, that we be the person who can live in that desired future. The counterpart to manifestation of the idea of embodiment or of being the living expression of the Christ is having that become a reality. Embodiment is the pinnacle of creation. So imagination not only calls us to have the idea of what can be and the desire for that to be, but also to live in that possibility, in that imagination. And so I want to offer some time and some space for us to be in that way of imagining right now as we shift into meditation. One of the most brilliant pieces of this book, Divine Audacity, that I've been pulling from today is that there is a time to process intellectually the 12th power. There is a meditation to experience the 12th power. And then there are practices to get better at utilizing and understanding that power. And so as we go into meditation, I'm going to offer some words from the meditation on imagination. So wherever you are in your space, whatever feels most comfortable for your body, I invite you to just move and be there and begin to breathe, finding the natural inflow and outflow of breath for your body. If there is any point in your body you're noticing some tension, I invite you to just notice it. If there's any space of pain or heaviness, I invite you to just notice it. Knowing that right here, all pieces of you are welcome. And as you continue to breathe, I invite you to imagine breathing in to the center of your brain, between your ears and between your eyes. I invite you to flood that space with light the color of a midday cloudless sky. That light blue, that color of imagination. Every breath you take, I invite you to release, opening the space for possibilities. Knowing that nothing can weigh you down. Nothing can inhibit the free expression of divine imagination. Knowing that all things are possible. As you connect to that space of imagination as part of your name and nature, I invite you to know the powerful place of being a creator and being created. Reaching beyond assumptions and limitations, opening the door of possibilities. By utilizing the power of conception, you catch the marvelous ideas of what can be, what you can do, and what you can experience. And I invite you to repeat to yourself, I am the spiritual power of imagination. I am the spiritual power of imagination. I choose to use my power of imagination. I choose to use my power of imagination. I live from a space of divine imagination. I live from a place of divine imagination. And now in the quiet, if there is something in your life that is bubbling forward, a new possibility, a new vision, a new conception of life, I invite you to just hold space for that. A new way of being. Whatever that new way of being is for you, I invite you to see it in your mind's eye. Feel what you might feel as if this was true right now. See it and feel it in the quiet. Through the power of imagination, all things are possible. And so when you're ready to come out of this time of meditation, this time of visioning and conceptualizing and imagining, I invite you to move your body, maybe wiggle your toes or shrug your shoulders. If you closed your eyes, I invite you to open them and come back to this time and this space that is full of possibility, that is full of opportunity, where all things are possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Reverend Lily Boyles. And thank you all for watching the weekly broadcast from Unity of Fredericksburg. Visit our website, uofva.org, to learn more about our mission of spiritual awakening and transformation, and support our ministry with your financial donation. Thanks again for watching.